If you're watching this, there's an 83% chance you're a parent. But here's what will shock you. 42% of viewers searching tough love are actually children and teenagers looking for answers. While parents debate discipline strategies, millions of kids are secretly Googling whether their parents' tough love is normal or emotional abuse. Today, I'm settling this debate once and for all. I'll expose the cultural differences you never noticed. Reveal the psychological damage most parents don't see coming. And most importantly, show you how to discipline without destroying your child's self-worth. Because here's the painful truth. Your version of love might be the reason your child stops confiding in you. Let's change that. Imagine two kids. One gets a hug for a B grade. The other gets scolded for not getting an A. Both parents say they're doing it out of love, but which approach actually helps? The answer isn't simple. It lies in understanding how different cultures interpret tough love, and more importantly, how children actually experience it. Let's dive deeper. Let me share with you some eye-opening research that changed how I understand tough love forever. A team of scientists from Harvard and the University of Manchester spent years studying parenting across different cultures, following 3,500 families in 12 countries. What they discovered might surprise you. In cultures that value community over individualism, places like China and South Korea, about 81% of parents believe strict discipline is essential to prepare children for adulthood's challenges. But in more individualistic societies like the United States or Sweden, that number drops to just 43%. Now let's look at a real-world example that brings these numbers to life. In South Korea, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, an international group that tracks global education trends, reports that 92% of high school students attend private lessons after school academies until 10 p.m. 3/4 of South Korean parents see this grueling schedule as necessary for success. And the results seem impressive at first glance. Korean students consistently rank among the world's top performers in math and science. But there's a heartbreaking flip side. According to OECD data, this pressure comes at a devastating cost. Since 2012, South Korea has held the tragic distinction of having the highest teen suicide rate in the developed world, currently 2.5 times the international average. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Sweden took a radically different approach back in 1979 by becoming the first country to completely ban corporal punishment. According to UNICEF's latest reports, Swedish children now experience childhood anxiety at rates 62% lower than the European average, and nearly 90% report having positive, trusting relationships with their parents. But here's the interesting twist. Researchers at Uppsala University recently found that 41% of Swedish employers say new graduates struggle to handle workplace criticism, suggesting there might be trade-offs to gentler parenting approaches too. Perhaps most startling of all are the discoveries coming from neuroscience labs. Using advanced brain imaging technology, researchers at Harvard and MIT found that children who experience frequent harsh discipline actually develop physical differences in their brains. Their fear centers become enlarged while the decision-making areas grow thinner. These aren't just temporary changes. They're structural differences that make these children 3 times more likely to struggle with anxiety as adults. This raises a crucial question. When we practice tough love, are we building resilience or inadvertently programming fear responses that will haunt our children for life? Around the world, parenting styles vary dramatically, each with its own philosophy of how to best prepare children for adulthood. In East Asian countries like China, Japan, and South Korea, education is treated with military-style intensity. It's not uncommon for students to complete 6 hours of homework daily after full school days. A shocking 84% of parents in these cultures admit to withholding affection when their children bring home less than perfect grades. The results are undeniable when looking at academic achievement. South Korean students, for instance, consistently rank number 1 in global math and science tests. But the cost is staggering. Nearly 1 in 3 South Korean teenage girls show signs of clinical depression, while Japan's teen suicide rates spike every September when school resumes. Meanwhile, in Western nations like the United States and throughout much of Europe, a completely different parenting philosophy has taken hold. The everyone gets a trophy mentality dominates, with only 27% of parents implementing consequences for academic failure. While this approach has succeeded in creating generations with historically low rates of youth suicide, it's created new challenges. A recent survey of employers found that 62% believe Gen Z workers lack the basic work ethic needed in professional environments. African and Latin American cultures have developed their own unique hybrid approach. In these societies, respect for elders remains non-negotiable, with physical discipline still widely practiced. 72% of Nigerian parents openly admit to spanking their children. The upside of this approach is visible in the remarkably strong family bonds that persist into adulthood. However, the downside emerges in psychological surveys, where 58% of adults report still carrying unresolved resentment from their childhood disciplinary experiences. What becomes clear from examining these global parenting patterns is that every culture pays some price for its chosen disciplinary approach. But my research uncovered one surprising commonality among the healthiest families worldwide. A secret I'll reveal later that could transform how you think about tough love. The internet search histories of children reveal heartbreaking truths about how they experience tough love. Phrases like, "Why do my parents hate me when I get B grades?" appear 14,000 times every month. "How to stop crying when mom yells" gets searched 8,100 times monthly. Perhaps most disturbing is the query, "Is it normal to fear your father?" which appears a staggering 23,000 times each month. Dr. Emma Williams, a clinical psychologist specializing in childhood development, explains why these searches matter. Children's brains aren't equipped to differentiate between "I hate your behavior" and "I hate you." When parents use tough love tactics, our studies show that 67% of children internalize this as personal rejection rather than constructive criticism. The consequences of this misunderstanding manifest in adulthood as various psychological challenges. The most common is perfectionism, which shows a 91% correlation with strict parenting styles. Many adults raised with excessive tough love develop people-pleasing disorders and an inability to handle failure in healthy ways. But before we condemn all forms of tough love, it's crucial to note that properly applied discipline does create remarkably resilient adults. The difference lies entirely in how the message is delivered, a distinction I'll explore next. After analyzing data from 10,000 successful families across multiple cultures, researchers have identified the Goldilocks principle for effective tough love. Parenting that's neither too harsh nor too soft, firm in expectations but warm in tone. The key? A 5-to-1 ratio of praise to criticism. For every critical remark, 5 affirmations. For every criticism a child hears, they need 5 genuine affirmations to maintain emotional balance. This ratio has been shown to prevent the development of anxiety disorders while still allowing for constructive feedback. Timing proves equally important. Implementing the 30-second rule, waiting half a minute before delivering discipline when angry, reduces instances of overly harsh punishment by 73%. This simple pause allows parents to respond thoughtfully rather than react emotionally. Perhaps most enlightening is what researchers call the explanation clause. Children who understand the reasoning behind rules demonstrate 68% better compliance and show 54% less long-term resentment. This explains why legendary NBA coach Phil Jackson was so successful with his tough love approach. Jackson famously criticized plays rather than players, saying, "That shot selection was weak," instead of, "You're a bad shooter." This distinction made all the difference in building championship teams. The same principle applies to parenting. When tough love focuses on actions rather than character, when it's delivered with patience and explanation, it becomes a powerful tool rather than a psychological weapon. After examining parenting approaches across dozens of cultures and thousands of families, one truth stands above all others. Children need both unconditional safety and conditional challenges to truly thrive. The healthiest families worldwide, regardless of culture, have mastered this delicate balance. They create what psychologists call a soft place to land, an emotional safety net of unconditional love, while still setting and maintaining high expectations. Here's a simple way to implement this tonight. First, hug your child for a full 8 seconds, the precise duration needed to trigger oxytocin release, the bonding hormone. Then, looking them in the eye, say these powerful words. I expect better because I know you're capable of better. This combination satisfies both fundamental needs in a single interaction. The takeaway is clear. Tough love only works when love comes first. When children know the criticism comes from belief in their potential rather than disappointment in their failures, they're far more likely to rise to the challenge. If this video helped you understand that critical balance, please share it with one parent who needs to hear this message. Now I want to hear from you. What was the most painful or most helpful form of tough love you received growing up? For the first time, I'm especially interested in hearing from younger viewers in the comments. Your perspective is so valuable in this conversation. Remember, this isn't about pointing fingers. My hope is that we can all reflect on how we express love through discipline. Every child deserves to feel both challenged and cherished. If today's video gave you new insights, I'd be honored to hear your thoughts below. Let's learn from each other and grow together as parents, mentors, and caregivers. Wishing you wisdom and compassion on this parenting journey, and I look forward to connecting with you in the comments section below. Thank you for watching.